I'd like to welcome you on behalf of the Laney chapter of the Poor People's Campaign. We are coming together at a really important time. This is a lot at stake in this 2020 election. We know that we are seeing a lot of things taking shape, and for some of us who kind of look and study these things, we think that you could likely compare it to the period of other momentous times in history, such as the time that when Abraham Lincoln was elected as president, and it was shortly before the ushering in of the Civil War. Now, some people might say, wow, that's a big statement. I mean, we just have an insane person as president, but that's not the only thing. These things are indicators of lots of other things. Back then, the political system let the slaveholders who were owning the South control the country. And by the way that they did this was by relying on sort of a legal fiction that a slave owner had 3/5 of a vote for every slave that he owned. Today, our political system gives corporations, through their influence on both major parties, a deadly hold over our government, relying on the legal fiction that corporations are people and have more rights than human beings do. We know at this juncture that there are major splits developing within the Democratic Party about how to proceed with the 2020 campaign. So I want you to kind of think about this. One strategy to defeat Trump or whomever the surrogate is by then, by compromising with corporations and supporting corporate-funded so-called middle politicians. Some of them might say Biden, some of them might say Kamala, some of them might say Corey. There's a whole host of them. But here's another strategy. Another strategy is to confront the corporations and build on the working class mobilization unleashed by the Sanders campaign in 2016. So in our neighborhoods, more folks are organizing into strands of a movement, working to pull together those strands together. They're trying to unite them. They're struggling to gain control over what people really need, led by a vision of a better society and a safer world for all of us. The bottom line is they can't get their political democracy without something that doesn't get taught a lot in this country, but without economic democracy. And this is what I mean by that. Whoever controls your bread and butter controls you. People who are waking up to that fact, they are finding that they need to be in control of the things they need to survive. Water, housing, clean water, housing, health care. They're basic ways of our communication, energy. And this is why voting matters. Our votes need to generate a social movement, or our mobilization for the votes that we need needs to generate a social movement aimed at securing the political power we need to get the things we want prioritized. Now you might ask, why is all of that happening right now? Why the midterms elections where we had a phenomenal turnout, maybe the largest in maybe the past 100 years of a midterm, of a huge section of our population? Well, one thing we know, follow the money trail, because more and more people are falling into a new class, a class of people no longer needed by a market-based, profit-based corporate economy that's replacing more and more human workers with robots and artificial intelligence. Because corporations no longer employ many of us, they are driven to use fascism. What is that word? I'm not just talking about racism. I'm talking about where corporations are sponsoring terrorism and dictatorship, and they're running our government. That's fascism. And they are using those methods to control all of us. That's a new situation. It's been developing in our country, but it's actually kind of like been a slow creeping kind of repression and fascism. So what we the people need is a plan. We need a narrative. And we need a plan and a narrative, because a lot of people got a narrative, but they have no plan. We also we have no choice. We have to unite to succeed and to survive, and unite under the banner of all of our basic needs. United, we are the social force to actually create a new economy that serves the needs of all the people and the planet. That's why our vote matters. That's why your vote matters. That's why this event. Defeating Trump, the white supremacists, the nativists, requires an uncompromising agenda that puts people first. There is no middle ground. It demands confrontation with corporations, not compromise. Government must serve our needs and not those of billionaires. This is what Lincoln intended in the Gettysburg Address with, and I quote, "Government of the people, by the people, and for the people," close quote. Just as in the Civil War era, the struggle of the people to meet their economic needs today is bound up with the battle for democracy and against voter suppression. With that, I'm going to bring on my colleague, Peter Brown. He's going to have a few more words for you and tell you what we're going to try to do in some of the programs that you have. Thank you and welcome.
Good morning. Hear me okay? All right. Before I introduce our first speaker, I'm going to read to you, I'm going to introduce the program. You have a program, that's what we'll be doing on your seats. We'll have a panel, we have an opening speaker, and we have a panel of people from the community who will be speaking on a range of issues that affect all of our lives dearly. And then we'll be breaking into small groups for discussion. There is a pencil and an index card on your chair. That is for you to write down questions or thoughts as these people are speaking. Because you're gonna think, oh, well, I don't know if that's true, or wait a minute, I don't understand that. When you pass those in at the end of the panel, then that's gonna be your opportunity to weigh in this discussion with a question, because everybody has questions about this. Questions are a natural part of the learning and teaching process. So make sure as you're going along, you make a few notes on your index card about things that raise questions for you. It might be something you agree or disagree about. It might be something that a word you don't understand, because we're all dealing with new stuff here. So I'm going to read the mission statement of the Laney Poor People's Campaign and Teach-In Committee, and I'm going to read one of the principles of the Poor People's Campaign. You have those in your packet, I believe. Our mission is to create public space to envision an equitable, abundant, sustainable future for our communities and our college. The vision that guides our mission is of a sustainable society and world of abundance, peace, and equality. That world is attainable. To that end, we will host public events to share vital information among the college and the community about socio-political issues in ways that are collaborative, educational, and informative. We will bring attention to increasing calls for austerity in the face of growing wealth and exposing the nationwide links between toxic neglect in Oakland and everywhere else, as we did with the Flint teach-in about poisoning of water for over 100,000 people, human beings in Flint, Michigan. We intend to focus on the crises in our community and strategies for achieving a sustainable economic democracy that works for everyone. And I'll read principle number 5 of the Poor People's Campaign. We believe that people should not live in or die from poverty in the richest nation ever to exist. Blaming the poor and claiming that the United States does not have an abundance of resources to overcome poverty are false narratives used to perpetuate economic exploitation, exclusion, and deep inequality. So, we call this teach-in the power of your vote. But electoral activity is not just voting, is it? How many of you know about the Sunrise Movement? Anybody here heard of Sunrise? It's a group of young people. You can't even be in it if you're over 35. I feel so discriminated against. They are totally focused on stopping climate change, and they went to the Democratic Party conference in San Francisco 3 weeks ago and said, you have to host a debate and summit on climate change. And the Democratic Party fought them and refused. That is voting work. The new congresswomen, women of color in Congress. Anyone here heard of Ocasio-Cortez? All right, good. She's one of our voices in Congress. They're called the Squad. There are 4 of them, but there are many more of them. And they are a new kind of politics. They got voted in. They ran. You can run. You can call a friend and say, wait a minute, your butt needs to be in that city council seat. So all of that is in the realm of what we're discussing today, because this is about, as Ethel said, political power. And in this country, we don't really understand a lot about what political power is. We're taught that political power is going out in the street and saying what you want, saying what you need, or lobbying. That's not political power. You're trying to talk to the people who actually have political power then. So this teach-in is about what is political power and how do we get some of it. So,
Before you bring on Paul, before you bring on, just want to announce.
okay.
Sorry, we don't get to rehearse these things right here, so it's happening live and in living color. As you're coming in, so I don't want to shame anybody, but if you're not registered to vote, we've done something today with the League of Women Voters, our partners, and you actually could get registered to vote. They're there in the vestibule, and you guys could take care of that. If something that we say kind of makes you feel like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do it, maybe you moved, or maybe you've been thinking about it, but you're like, really? Does it really make a difference? They're also corrupt, blah, blah, blah. Well, we hope that a part of what we talked to you about today will get you there. In fact, is that you, Meg? All right, there's Meg, and they're in the vestibule. Then we also have literature. Some of it's on your chair, and both Bill and Carolyn, they're kind of, Bill, there you go, thank you, Bill. You can get literature there, and we're gonna talk about some of that literature in the small groups and all during the day. So I just wanted to make those announcements and thank the partners who helped us put that part together.
Very good, thanks, Ethel. So, I want to introduce our first speaker. Professor Scott Godfrey is a professor of history here at Laney College, and he is a strong believer in the power of knowledge, because knowledge gives us the perspective that we need not to be caught up and whipped around by all the things that are happening. So Scott is going to speak to us on the Electoral College and the question of whether the Electoral College is democracy or not. Scott?
Hey.
So first off, my name is Scott Godfrey. I teach political science, not history. It's nice to meet you all. I like to remind people that every day is a choice that we all have to either stand still or to take a step forward or to take a step backward. I think that that's sort of an important place to begin. But I'm just going to be talking briefly about the Electoral College and the question on the program, whether or not it's democracy or whether or not it's democratic. The answer, I'll just give you a spoiler alert, no, it's not. And I'm going to talk about how and why that is. So, who here is actually familiar with what the Electoral College system is? A bunch of you, a few of you. So, talking about the Electoral College system, what we're talking about is the election of a president, specifically. That's what we're talking about. So, the founders of the United States created a system in which they wanted the citizens of the United States, people who looked like me, white, land-owning men, to have a degree of power, but they didn't want those people to have too much power. So within the Constitution that they created, they built certain systems to limit the power of the people of the United States. And most of those systems are still in place. And one way to withhold the people's power was to create this institution, this system called the Electoral College system. So very briefly, what it means is that when we vote for a president of the United States, we're not actually directly voting for that candidate. What we are voting for is electors in each state. So the problems with this system, so it was originally, it inflated the power of states that had large populations of enslaved people. That was originally, obviously, one of the huge problems with it. And today, why I think there's such a huge problem with it is what it does is it inflates the power of people who live in less populated states, and by extension, it weakens the votes of people like us who live in more populated states, or in California specifically, the most populated state in the country. So in understanding how this all works, just very briefly, because it's connected to Congress, I just want to talk about the structures of our Congress very briefly. So our Constitution creates what's called a bicameral Congress, a Congress of two chambers, a Senate and a House of Representatives. The Senate is based on, quote, equal representation. I put air quotes around that word equal, and I'll explain why in just a moment. And the House of Representatives is based on proportional representation, meaning the population of your state dictates how many House members you'll get. So the state of California, the most populated state, has 53 House members. There are some states that are very less populated that have only one House member. Okay, so just keep this basic structure in mind. So back in 1789, when the Constitution was ratified, there were approximately 750,000 enslaved people in the United States. And the House of Representatives is based on this concept of proportional representation. So a question at this time was, how were enslaved people going to be counted in terms of representation in the House? And how did they answer that question? Who knows? Yes?
They counted each slave as 3/5 of a person.
Exactly, what we call the 3/5 compromise. And what this did was it said that enslaved people would be counted as 3/5 of an individual in terms of representation in the House. And what this wound up doing is inflating the political power of states with large slave populations. That's what the 3/5 compromise wound up doing. So, how the Electoral College works. So, each state gets a number of electors, and those states receive a number based on the number of House members plus the number of senators. So, for example, in California, this is today, in California, we have 53 House members, we have 2 senators, so we have 55 electoral votes in the state of California. So I'm going to go back now to 1789. And what the 3/5 compromise wound up doing was not only inflating the number of House members, but by extension, it inflated the number of electoral votes for states with large slave populations. This is why 4 of our first 5 presidents of the United States come from the state of Virginia, a state with a large slave population. So today, ironically, the situation is a little different. So where the House of Representatives distorted the Electoral College, today it's actually the Senate that skews the Electoral College. So in California, we have approximately 40 million people in the state. We have 53 House members and 2 senators. That gives us 55 electoral votes, which means 1 electoral vote for about every 730,000 people in the state of California. The state of Wyoming, the least populated state in the country, has approximately 570,000 people in the entire state. They get 1 House member, but they also get 2 senators, which gives them 3 electoral votes. Now, doing some basic mathematics, you find out that every individual in Wyoming, or rather 190,000 people in Wyoming, get a single electoral vote versus 730,000 people in the state of California, meaning the people in the state of Wyoming, their vote for the president is worth 3.8 times as much as a vote for the president in the state of California. So the question, going back to that question, is the Electoral College democratic? No, of course it's not. So it waters down the presidential votes in a state like California and benefits less populated, more white, older, more conservative voters in a state like Wyoming. So, what this has also meant is that within the last few electoral cycles, we've had 2 presidents elected who lost the popular vote, but won the presidency. In 2000, George W. Bush lost the popular vote by about 500,000 votes. Who knows how many votes our current president lost by, approximately? 3 million. 3 million more Americans voted for his opponent than voted for our current president. Yet he's still our president because of the Electoral College system. So this is something that I think we should care about, and clearly this is not democratic. So there are a couple of ways to get rid of the Electoral College system. One is through a constitutional amendment. Now, constitutional amendments are incredibly difficult to achieve. It's required 2/3 of both the House and the Senate, and then 3/4 of the states have to vote for a constitutional amendment. Not going to happen, I'm sorry to say. But there is another solution. So, what's called the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact is another possible solution. So, I'm going to show you a video that's just 2.5 minutes long to explain exactly what this is and how it works.
While we resist Donald Trump, we also need to make sure our democracy doesn't ever again elect a candidate who loses the popular vote. We must abolish the Electoral College. Now, as you probably know, the Constitution assigns each state a number of electors based on the state's population. The total number of electors is 538. So anyone who gets 270 of those Electoral College votes becomes president, regardless of the popular vote. So how do we abolish the Electoral College? Amending the Constitution is very hard, requiring a 2/3 vote by the House and Senate, plus approval by 3/4 of state legislatures. But we can make the Electoral College irrelevant without a constitutional amendment. Here's how. Article 2 of the Constitution says states can award their electors any way they want. So all that's needed is for states with a total of at least 270 electors to agree to award all their electoral votes to the presidential candidate who wins the popular vote. If they do that, then automatically the winner of the popular vote gets the 270 electoral votes he or she needs to become president. Already, 10 states and the District of Columbia have passed laws to do exactly this, awarding all their electoral votes to the candidate who wins the popular vote as soon as the 270 elector goal is met. Together, these states total 165 electoral votes. So all we need now is some additional states with 105 electors to pass the same law, agreeing to reward all their electoral votes to the winner of the popular vote. And it's done. We'll never again elect a president who loses the popular vote. The effort is known as the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. If your state hasn't yet joined on, make sure it does.
All right, y'all can, that's some good education there. Thank you, Professor Scott.
You're welcome.
We're gonna ask, you've received index cards, and as things may occur to you, can you please put either your question or your comment about some of the presentations, anything that sort of, what do you mean by that? This is the time to do that. Now we're gonna start with our actual panel. I'm gonna remind our panelists, we've got timekeepers, because we got a lot of stuff we're doing. And I'm gonna see, Sister Monica, are you asking for the floor?
Yeah, who needs an index card?
All right. Okay, we're gonna get index cards to you. Who needs to get signed in? If you do, oh good, they've been getting you. All right, so the next thing that we're gonna do is have a presentation by a partner and a longtime ally for us. Have anyone in this room had an opportunity to work with Parents' Voices of Oakland or Parents' Voices in other parts of the state of California? All right, so oftentimes we have groups that are doing really hard work on our behalf, and they're behind the scenes because they're doing the leadership development, they're pulling together the folks to do that. Our first panelist that will speak today is Rachel Harrison. She's both an organizer and a parent in the community of Oakland, and she's featured in the People's Tribune in something you're gonna get to talk about more when we break into a small group session. But join me in welcoming Rachel. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Rachel. I'm a parent, first and foremost, parent leader and organizer for Parent Voices Oakland. It is an honor to be here. I thank Ms. Ethel and the Poor People's Campaign for welcoming us and having us again. I noticed no hands came up, so I'll tell you a little bit about who Parent Voices is. We are a grassroots, parent-led volume. Oh,
She said speak up.
my loud voice. Okay, I'm sorry. We are a grassroots, parent-led community organization here in Oakland. Parent Voices has actually 13 chapters throughout the state, but we are kind of the hub here in the Bay Area. Anyone familiar with the 12-month eligibility? You know, when you have your kids in child care and you have to recertify every few months, every time your situation changes? No? I see a head nodding. Okay. Well, Parent Voices statewide is the reason why that exists. We are the reason that that has been changed, that you now can go an entire year without having to recertify for your child care services. And those are just the kind of things that we do here in the area. Our focus is high quality, affordable child care for middle and low income families, but we help anyone who is in need. So speaking of which, we actually have another item that we are trying to put on the March 2020 ballot. Actually, in the back with Ms. Carroll is a fact sheet about the new ballot item that we are fighting to get on the 2020 ballot for March. It is estimated to bring in approximately $160 million every year into the Alameda County budget to improve child care, the wages for our providers, the service that's given, but also to create a level 1 trauma center at Children's Hospital Oakland. Wow. Those of us that are parents, that is extremely important. There's only 2 other level 1 trauma centers in the state, far north, far south. Wow. So we are clearly in need of that here in the area. Why your vote matters is because when we stepped to the plate in 2018 with Measure A, We lost by 1,500 votes, 1500, that's it. You would have had this, well, we would have had this additional money in the county budget almost 2 years ago, and we would actually be allocating those resources now instead of fighting for them still. So when you see folks talking about the Alameda County Child Care and Health Initiative, please be kind to that person. If you're a registered Alameda County voter, stop for a second and sign. Your vote matters. You may not be a parent today, but you are a community member. You may eventually start a family. You may find yourself caring for a loved one's children, as a lot of folks have. And this will be important to you. This is a complete game changer. Yes. There is no other legislation like this that exists. We will be the first here in California, Alameda County, when this passes. So I'm going to speak it into existence. When it passes, March 2020, it will get on the ballot. We will have enough signatures. Thank you, somebody, for clapping. We will get enough signatures. We will get enough community support because, again, your vote matters. Every single vote matters. We saw that in 2016. Every single vote matters. So what is the connection between the work that I do and the Poor People's Campaign? Not having affordable child care.
Come on now.
Not having child care at all can mean the difference between housing and not. It can mean the difference between having a job or not. A lot of parents who are on CalWorks get job opportunities and cannot take those positions because they cannot find a child care provider, which means what? They are stuck with those crumbs that they get from Alameda County every single month.
That's right.
Every single month, you're stuck struggling, even though someone has offered you an excellent employment opportunity, because you cannot afford a provider, because there are no spaces where you'd like for your child to be. You find yourself, again, still on that hamster wheel of poverty.
Yes.
In the article in the Poor People's Campaign magazine is a snippet of my own personal story about having to choose between child care and my comfortable, lovely little apartment in Berkeley. I chose the child care. So, and since then, it has resulted in some housing instability, but that's okay, because I'm on the up climb and things work out for the good. And I hope that, somebody can benefit from knowing that while these decisions are difficult to make, that there are ways that you can change the trajectory of your own life, but also your communities by voting. The power of your vote, the power of your voice. And the only way that happens is through unified work. It's through parent voices working with the Poor People's Campaign, working with Mr. Hutchinson, working with educators. Everybody has to come together. Everybody has to decide that this is important. If we don't decide that it's important, these changes will never happen. We will never get what it is we deserve. Child care is a basic human right. Just as housing is a basic human right. Just as a living wage is a basic human right. Many of our child care providers are also CalWorks recipients. Can you imagine working 12 hours a day caring for someone else's children and you cannot adequately provide for your own? This is a lot of people's everyday reality. All of these things are interconnected. Housing, childcare, etc. I have been told it is my time. So thank you. Again, make sure you use your vote.
Thank you, Rachel. Good hand. I'm beginning to get a sense that the folks in this room have a sense that you have rights that should be respected. How many here are students? Raise your hand if you're a student. Raise it high. Be proud you're a student. Dang. Are you a student? Yellow shirt? Are you a student? Why are you not raising your hand? You're going to flunk this test, man. Okay, so how many are holding a family together? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you, I won't ask this, but you may be struggling to stay in a house. Your family may be struggling to stay in a house. You may be struggling to have transportation, to have food, childcare, as Rachel said. And, sorry. And when you have problems with any of these, it can seem like, oh, I made a mistake. I'm doing something wrong. I can't handle the pressures in life. It's real important that we understand that when I was growing up, I'm almost 70, none of those added up to losing your home.
That's right.
I made all those mistakes.
Right.
None of those added up to losing your home or going hungry. No, I didn't have to worry about whether I'd have a job or whether that job would pay enough for me to have a home. That was easy. So you're in a different world now. And it's hard to see the causes of that because we're down here scurrying around in the world, and when people talk about giant corporations, it's kind of like us being ants and trying to see an elephant. It's just a big gray cloud. So part of what we're doing here is to make that real and make that visible, because our world is controlled by corporations, and we need to see them and understand them. So my next speaker, our next speaker, is, I want to get her name right, Talia Husbands-Hankin. She is a representative of the Homeless Advocacy Working Group, and she'll be speaking to us on that issue. Please come on up, Talia. Don't forget your index cards.
Good morning, everyone. How y'all doing?
Good morning.
My name is Talia, and I live in the neighborhood here, and I'm a homeless advocate. I want to start by talking about something that's going on right now, this morning. Just a few blocks away from us at Lake Merritt, the city of Oakland is forcibly evicting unsheltered people who are living in encampments all around Lake Merritt. This is happening under Mayor Libby Schaaf's agenda. This is her policy. So after I leave here, I'm gonna go and stand in solidarity with folks who are being forcibly moved. And if any of y'all have time, you are welcome to come and join me. This is something that yesterday I was at an eviction in West Oakland where they were forcibly moving people, bulldozing shelters and leaving people. It is boiling hot outside.
Yes.
It is unsafe. This is cruel and inhumane. So what we're seeing under Mayor Libby Schaaf's policies is that we are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars pushing people from one corner to another without providing real solutions. We have a human rights emergency going on in our town right now, and it is all of our responsibilities to be a part of standing up and saying this is unacceptable and that our neighbors deserve their basic human rights, and that we all figure out ways that we can work together. So when we're talking about voting and we're talking about the electoral system, it's really important to not just think about the president, but to think about local stuff. And I didn't know about this until I started really getting involved around homelessness. So it's okay if you don't know yet, but I invite you to join me in learning. So it turns out that it's really important to know who our city council members are. And it's really important to pay attention to what our mayor is doing, because what's happening is in our city is directly connected to choices that they're making.
Our students are coming in, so don't get...
Sure. Yeah. So we had a really exciting thing happen in this past election, and that is that the city council member who represents Laney and this district, and also where I live, is new. We elected someone new.
Yes.
We elected a woman of color named Nikki Fortunata Boss.
Yes.
And she stands with us and with the community for human rights, and for human rights of unsheltered people specifically. She understands that over 74% of people who are living unsheltered in Oakland are Black, and that is a direct result of racism, and that is unacceptable. She understands that we need to be fighting to have water, to have sanitation, to have showers, to have food, to everyone immediately. And she's working with people who are unsheltered and people like myself who are advocates to create new policies in our city. So it is unbelievable to see, just with shifting one person on city council, that has shifted the political landscape in
Louder.
terms of.
They said louder.
Sorry. Just by changing one person on city council, that has changed the political landscape and given us more power to be able to organize for change and to hold Mayor Libby Schaaf and the administration accountable. So the Homeless Advocacy Working Group, I just want to really quickly read you our mission statement. It is the mission of the Homeless Advocacy Working Group to assist in improving the conditions of human beings living on the streets, in vehicles, in the open, and in unsafe shelters and informal encampments. HOG insists unconditionally that housing is a human right and demands that all persons have a right to dwell and to be housed, irrespective of shelter situation, economic ability, race, age, gender, disability, or other marginalized status, and must be treated always with courtesy, dignity, and respect. So one of the ways that folks are organizing is that we are trying to hold our elected officials in Oakland accountable, specifically the mayor and specifically the city council members. So we've been working with Nikki Fortunata Boss, and she just got a policy passed in our local city council that is going to create what's called an audit. And that's going to mean that the auditor is going to look into what is happening. How is Mayor Libby Schaaf spending our money? How many hundreds of thousands of dollars is she spending on police? Is she spending on DPW, Department of Public Works, who are forcing people from one encampment to another,
Yes.
just stealing people's tents, demolishing their homes, and forcing them out onto the sidewalk with nowhere to go? So we have a really exciting opportunity right now to start to hold the mayor accountable and to see what's actually going on. So I want to really invite everyone here, if you don't know who your city council member is, please find out. You can just Google it. It's pretty easy. Put in your zip code. And to start getting involved and paying attention to the kinds of policies that they're deciding on, because this is impacting all of us. And those of us who are experiencing housing insecurity or homelessness, the decisions of the folks that we elect locally are making a huge impact in our lives. I want to just tell you about a couple of things really quickly, a few other ways that you can be involved. One is if you have access to resources, direct redistribution of resources. Get a group of your friends or your family together and go take bottled water to an encampment near you. People do not have access to water, okay? So figure out creative ways. I'm low income and I'm disabled myself, but I have a big mouth, so I use it to get other people on my block to kick it down and to share resources and to help, and then I take it and deliver it to encampments. So delivering direct resources is very helpful. Number two is bear witness and pay attention to the policies. Come out and see with your own eyes the cruelty and the inhumanity of what Libby Schaaf's policies are doing by forcibly evicting people every week in our city. And number three is get involved in the policy work. Start paying attention. Come and join a meeting with me at the Homeless Advocacy Working Group. We meet on the 2nd and the 4th Mondays of the month at 4 p.m. at City Hall. It's all volunteers. It's housed folks and unhoused folks coming together, and we're fighting to make our city a better place, and you are very invited to join us. Figure out one thing that you personally can do to help make a difference. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Talia. Thank you so much for that presentation. I know that it reflects the reality for many of our students here at the campus of Laney and many of the families who have been displaced from the city of Oakland and who are residing on the sidewalks, working every day, but our city that can provide all kind of benefits to developers for more than 16,000 new residents, but less than spit for the working people and the poor people who built this. You people that are in this room, you can make your voice heard, as you've already seen through some of our panelists, on a lot of levels. What you don't get to do is set it out. You don't get to say it doesn't matter. You don't get to say that, well, I'm just going to get mine because I'm going to get my education. I can guarantee you that everyone that is sitting here has done that. And the economics of a system that is pushing us out requires that we come together. But there's something else we're making an appeal for you to do. We're making an appeal for you to think about how to make not only your physical voice heard, but your electoral voice heard. If you're not registered today, we're making an appeal because we need to get this measure that parents' voices is pushing. We need to get that passed. How about some child care for some working mamas up in here and working papas up in here? How we gonna get that? So we've got to get both registered, but you know what? This isn't just about pulling a little lever. This is about being informed in the way that Professor Scott broke down things and showed that to you, but also going beyond that. We can teach each other. Y'all can have your own teach-ins. Steal this idea. It belongs to you, the people. You guys need to push yourselves. I know you have a lot of studies. Many of you are working incredible numbers of hours, but this is also about our future, your future. And so if you can think about rounding out your academic education with this political education, that's what a lot of this was about. So we thank you. You helped make it a tremendous session, and I'm kicking back and you're gonna watch the next panel. Ms. King and Mr. Terrence. All right.
Thank you. So on behalf of the Laney chapter of the Poor People's Campaign, we bring you greetings and welcome you to this second part of the teach-in. Many of you have watched the presidential debates. The 2020 election, which we're seeing right now, may be one of the most momentous in history since the 1860 election brought us Abraham Lincoln and ushered in the Civil War. Back then, the political system let the slave-owning South control the country by relying on the legal fiction that a slave owner had 3/5 of a vote for every slave he owned. Today, our political system gives corporations, through their influence in both major political parties, a deadly hold over our government, relying on the legal fiction that corporations are people and have more rights than humans do. Major splits are developing within the Democratic Party. You guys have heard of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. How many of you heard of her? Ilhan Omar. How many of you have heard of her? Alyssa Priestley. Fighters. These people ran against incumbent Democrats. They ran against other Democrats who they felt were just corporate Democrats who were actually serving the corporations rather than regular people. Now the Democratic Party, who we kind of have been raised, a lot of us, to think the Democratic Party is, you know, for us, for working people. But at this point, both of our popular parties are supporting corporations. The Democratic Party now is basically sanctioning companies that will support people who are running against incumbent Democrats. So let's say somebody wants to run against Dianne Feinstein, for example, who's been here forever, and a lot of us think she's conservative. If someone wanted to run a campaign and hired a campaign manager, that campaign manager would get blacklisted by the Democratic Party. They actually have that as a policy right now. And we can't allow that to happen. We the people are supposed to be in charge of our democracy, or else it's not a democracy. So we're going to be talking about these things today, about the issues that we the people care about, that we the people need. Right now, more of us are, why is this happening? I'm just going to say briefly, why do you think this might be happening right now? Well, one reason is because more and more of us are falling into a new class of people, a new class that's no longer needed by a market-based, profit-based economy that is replacing more and more workers with technology, with robotics, with automation. For example, where are some places that you've seen jobs replaced by technology? Any examples? Amazon.com. Those used to be stores, bookstores. Amazon employs a fraction of the amount of people as most other businesses, face-to-face businesses. What else? Pardon? Coffee?
We have a new machine in San Francisco located in the
Coffee. A new machine. The sister up there is talking about a machine that's automatic, and they have this at some of the fast food restaurants now. Not a real person. You go up there, you select what you want, and you push the button. You put your money in. Nobody's there. Now I'm not against robots. I'm not against automation, but we have to have a way to support ourselves. If we don't have a job, how are we going to pay for food or housing? So the government, we need to hold the government accountable, because what's the purpose? It's to protect the general welfare. So we have to try to figure out how to deal with this situation. Your vote matters today. Us coming together and at least talking about what we want and fighting together really matters. It's the only way we're going to get a change. In this election and in the coming years, your vote will have great power if we can all channel our political energy towards a common goal, transforming our society so that all people have full access to all the resources of society to fulfill our basic needs of decent and dignified life on a healing planet. And I want to thank Ed Long Scott for these comments. And here's Terrence Williams, the president of the Associated Students of Laney College.
Thank you so much, Dr. King. Really appreciate that welcome. I want to thank Ms. Ethel as well for putting this together, the Poor People's Campaign. But I want y'all to give yourselves a round of applause as well, too. So what Dr. King was just saying was basically education. She was educating y'all, and that's the first step to being a voice, to being an advocate for people that don't have a voice or for people that's scared to speak up. You have to educate yourself. So by being here and by listening to all this knowledge that you are getting from the Poor People's Campaign, the Laney College Poor People's Campaign, you are educating yourself. So that's the first step to being an advocate, and I really appreciate you all for being here.